Hey guys, I personally loved The Last Jedi. Now, it isn't exactly a perfect movie, but it's an awesome addition to the Star Wars canon. And it takes things like the Force and expands them, and what it's like to be in dogfights and whatnot, but still kind of keeping true to tradition. And let's face it, Mark Hamill getting to act his pants off, it's about time. And the Porgs? Oh my god, the Porgs. I loved them. Oh, just adorable. When Chewie goes down and he's like, little cribbit. No. Star Wars itself, I've seen a lot of people posting questions and whatnot about The Last Jedi in various places. And even you may be wondering some things about The Last Jedi. Questions that feel are unanswered, some issues that you may have had and stuff like that. And as the very first fan caster and Star Wars podcaster, if you don't believe me, look it up, requiemoftheoutcast.com. I don't even know if it's still up yet or not. I think it is. But anyway, do a /WordPress after that. I'll put it in the links. But you can check that out. Old episodes. It's actually really bad. It's from a long time ago. But you can check out some of the things that I claim about myself with Star Wars and how important I am and how I became podcasting's Rich Siegfried. But that's not why you're here. In fact, I want to kind of address some of those Star Wars questions that you may have. Some of them pretty simple answers. Some of them just stuff you may not have thought about. And hopefully it'll make your next viewing of The Last Jedi a little bit better. So welcome to the very first episode of the GRD Learnstitute. So who is the broom kid at the end of the movie? He's a no one. That's what's beautiful about it. It shows that anybody can be a Force user, not just the magical Skywalker clan. Is Rey really a Jedi now? Will she teach others the ways of the Jedi? Yeah, possibly. She got those books. So she may kind of address things, maybe try to take Luke's position and try to teach some folks. Or she may just be like, look, I'm learning this stuff. Let's go in a new direction. That old tradition didn't really work a whole lot. And that's one of the things that Luke was talking about. Like, get rid of the nonsense. Let's focus on what things actually are. What was up with Luke's projection of himself on Crate? Well, it's a little bit like an extension of Force time, the thing that Kylo and Rey were doing, or Snoke was doing between. He was the antenna, really, that was just bringing them closer together, so that way. Anyway, it's kind of the same thing, and honestly, it's just a variation of what we've seen in the past with people chatting with each other through the Force. How did Leia survive in space? Scientifically, and by scientifically I mean quick research on the internet, you can survive about 15 seconds in space. Now, you add in the oxygen that would be escaping the ship, and the fact that Jedi can enter into a trance and kind of slow their body organs down, and you just sprinkle in some Jedi magic, and anything's possible. For Leia, surviving outside of the ship, totally possible. Then when she kind of force pulled herself to the ship, that was kind of awesome. You could look at it scientifically. Like, was she force pushing it, but not because there was no gravity? She was just kind of getting pulled to the thing she was trying to push from and stuff. Jedi magic, man. Come on. It could be any of those things. But personally, I like to think of something that you never really saw anybody do, but made a whole lot of sense to me. Jedi levitating, but what they're doing is they're actually force levitating their own shoes, right? So they're force levitating their shoes, and it's like they're flying. Why was that not in any of the movies? I think that would be awesome. Great way to get out of a lot of scrapes, too. Since Leia survives, how will her role be handled in Episode 9? Well, that can be a little tricky, because personally, it needs to be handled with class and dignity, and she should definitely not die off screen like Admiral Akbar. I mean, we lost one of the greatest military commanders in the Star Wars universe. We miss you, you fishy big guy. Will Luke appear as a Force ghost in Episode 9? Yeah, why wouldn't he? I mean, personally, I think he's going to be fighting Snoke, like Ghost Snoke, in in the ethereal plane, like the Force plane. We may actually be able to see that or something like that, which would be pretty badass. But my hope is that we got to see awesome Luke for just a little bit in Last Jedi. So I'm really hoping that there's some awesome lightsaber stuff, or even if it's just awesome Force just back and forth things from Luke. Because let's face it, we want to see that. And Luke giving himself over to the Force, it makes sense that that's where it's going to be. So Jedi can just talk to each other across the galaxy now. A lot of people have been complaining about. But no, they've always been able to do that. That's not a new thing. Luke did it to Leia, and Vader did it to Luke in Empire. And granted, it wasn't as far away. They were a lot closer, but the Force connects everything. Plus, there's no gravity in space, so, I mean, it's science, people. If Snoke was connecting Kylo and Rey, how did they talk after he died across the vast expanse of space? Well, the only thing that changes when a Jedi dies is basically how tall his robes are. When a Jedi or Sith, when they die, they become more powerful in the Force. I mean, unless you have to actually surrender yourself to the Force to do the vanishing thing. I'm not 100% sure exactly how that works, of course. I don't think anybody does, not until they tell us in official canon. But I think the connection actually remained because they were willing it to. They wanted to speak to it. And it's kind of like one of those things that once you know it's a thing that can be done, you're able to do that. And since the walls of the Force were kind of broken down, thanks to kind of the new views of the Force, we're able to find out that the Force is between everything and everything is connected. So why couldn't you do those things? Plus, I mean, shirtless Kylo. Do you need another reason to want to make sure that you got that will to connect? Why didn't Holdo just tell Poe her plan? Well, she was trying to break him like the space stallion that he is. I mean, he was a guy that would just go off and do stuff. He didn't really worry about the consequences or anything like that, and that's one of the reasons why he wasn't really a leader. It's one of the reasons why Leia just pimp slapped him at one point in time to try to shake him out of his senses. And I'm pretty sure she had a lot of practice with that with Han. But one of the tricky things when you're dealing with somebody who doesn't really want to listen to leadership or whatnot, you've got to kind of break them down in some sort of way. You have to get through those walls, those barriers, or the arrogance that they have. And I think that's what she was trying to do. Granted, there probably would have been a few less deaths if she had told him, because that's also a good leader thing to do, actually let people know what's up. She didn't have to tell him every individual piece of the plan, but at least letting him know that she's got stuff handled and that they're not just trotting all around like they're going to Mordor to toss a ring or anything. Why didn't anyone answer the Resistance call for help? Well, when you step up against somebody, what can happen is that, you find out who your friends are. Some people will talk a big game, and then when it comes go time, they're nowhere to be seen. Now, the other aspect is this was a small conglomeration of the Resistance. They may not have thought that they had a shot against the First Order. And why let the entire thing go down when only a fraction of it can? Even though, let's face it, it's the most interesting characters, the ones we care about, General Leia and everybody else, Poe Dameron, Finn, and all them. But it's one of those things where you got to kind of weigh the outcomes. And the other folks may have been like, the Empire sucked, but it wasn't that bad. So, we just got to pay more taxes, have a bunch of guys in white plastic around, but we'll be fine. So hopefully they weren't punks like that. Hopefully there was some grander scheme that we find out in the third movie. But I think honestly it was just that they thought it was such a losing cause. Why let the entire Resistance go down in one shot? Are we getting a Rey, Finn, Rose love triangle? No, stop it. Keep it to your fanfic. The last time we got a love triangle in Star Wars, incest was involved. Well, I guess there could be a south to space. How do the First Order continue on from here? Snoke's gone. But just like any time a leader of an opportunistic bunch of jerks is taken out, there's always going to be a struggle for domination. Will Hux take over? Will Kylo keep running his crusade against the Jedi? I guess we'll find out. How did Yoda create lightning as a Force ghost? Yeah, he can do that. when he gave himself over to the Force, he became more powerful. Now, the Force exists between everything, as I mentioned before. So it's like he's in the Force now, so he's more powerful. And if the Force is in everything, then he can influence it with lightning, or making things float, or finally getting a granola bar from Luke that doesn't taste like crap. Is Captain Phasma dead? Nah, I bet she'll be back. Unless we find out that she's got some strained lineage to the Fett line, because those guys always go out like punks. Is Chewbacca a vegan now? Ugh. Come on, look, Chewie, he just didn't eat that one little Porg's mama. In fact, I think that Porg now owes Chewie a life debt. So I guess technically Porg is Chewie's Chewie. Are Rey's parents really no one, or are they no one of consequence? Or does she literally not have parents? Look, it doesn't matter. To me, it's important that Rey comes from nobody, because we're not just following the Skywalker clan all the time. So either they're nobody, or they are somebody and Kylo's just a big prick. We don't know for sure. But again, like I said, personally, I hope it's that Rey's parents are nobodies, because then that gives us a chance for the Star Wars universe to actually go into other areas, and we don't just have another Skywalker and another Skywalker. And as much as I love the Skywalkers, the universe has to be bigger than them. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. What are your thoughts on all these questions? Do you think I'm off base? Entirely possible. Drop a comment on this post and let the conversation continue.
Geek Radio Daily. All the geek without the wait. GeekRadioDaily.com.